Recording. Hello, I'm the Sugar Ray, and let's make this setting a little bit more comfortable because today we're going to talk about something that might, rattle your bones. Which ideally it should, because we're going to be talking about activism. And with that activism comes some caveats. Alright, let me make the setting a little bit more familiar. Happy things sitting around. Okay. Consumption is not activism. Now this might take you a shot because we've heard the phrase, vote with your dollars. There's been historical boycotts that have counted for activism, such as the bus boycott that was started by the ACLU through people like Rosa Parks. Boycotts have been a big way to help try to steer capitalism before. But this video isn't about how consumption isn't activism. This video is about activism's connection to anime and how we can do it and a little bit of why. But first, that consumption aspect is very important. So activism is people coming together in order to effectively change things. And this can be done in several ways, by direct action, like protesting, by writing letters, by talking to someone, by talking to people that you know in order to build up more and more support for your claim. Pretty much any way that you have to send a message to other people is activism. And depending on what your goal is, you want to change your kind of tactics. Even terrorism in its way is a sort of direct action because you want something to be changed and you want to demonstrate the extremes that you'll go through. I don't recommend terrorism though. There's a bunch of cases for, to sidetrack my video hard right away. So first let's look at Rosa Parks. Now, Rosa Parks started a bus boycott. The ACLU started a bus boycott. And what that did is that was because there was a law that made it so the black people had to sit in the back of the bus or give up their seats to white people because black people were second-class citizens according to the law. So the black people in the community stopped giving the buses their business. They walked, they carpooled, they found other ways to work and did not give their money to the buses. And this was very effective because a lot of people did not have cars and had to use that public transportation. And their money being taken away didn't alone change the laws because it was part of several demonstrations. And this eventually worked. Those laws were taken off the books and black people were allowed to sit anywhere they wanted on the bus, though there was still discrimination. But the other important thing to take, it didn't come out of nowhere. It was part of a conscious overall effort in order to get civil rights passed and have black people become equal to white people in the United States. It was a part of a plethora of demonstrations across the country. Now let's talk about how things have changed. It's a lot harder to put pressure on a business in order to change major things. For example, last year, maybe it was this year, several unions boycotted Amazon, and this was across Europe. There was an Amazon boycott where one, they didn't go to work, and two, they had people no longer order and not buy stuff during some of the busiest buy seasons of the year. The problem with these boycotts is that Amazon is a global company. They sell things all over the world, and not everyone is down or understands that there's a boycott on, or that boycott does not stop people from ordering things from Amazon. Globalization is the internet. It's the ability for a company to be able to operate on a global scale and sell things outside of their country's borders or get money from outside their country's borders. This, in essence, is anime. This is why we're able to watch anime, because the world has become globalized, more connected, everyone to each other. We're able to watch cartoons out of Japan or Korea or Canada or even Europe. And this is why such things like the Warcraft movie failed in America but made up a lot more money in China, because we're globalized and sell movies to China and Chinese citizens. Also, being globalized, there's a lot more layers between the companies and you, where in the civil rights era, people could do sit-ins in a restaurant that refused to serve black people and thus disrupt their business and the ire of white patrons that wanted to eat there, but they blocked up the business. Though now, if a company doesn't want to sell to a demographic, they don't have to worry about it. They sell their products to other people in third parties, and there's a lot more layers between where your anime comes from and you. So when it comes to activism in this era, it all depends on what company it is and what the action is for. For example, James Gunn was targeted for a bunch of tweets he said a bunch of years ago by a bunch of alt-right trolls that made it look like people were generally mad about it. And Disney is, one, a very image-conscious company. Two, Disney does not stand up for individual employees. Disney is all about its own image. So three, when there was outrage about something and someone being unsavory, they cut off James Gunn. Disney is willing to stop using plastic straws and fire an individual director. Disney is less willing to give their employees adequate benefits or stop the calamity, which is the avalanche of copyright claims it makes on people as much and as often as possible. But you also notice that that wasn't a boycott that got James Gunn fired. It was a Twitter campaign. It was direct action of people telling Disney and people telling James Gunn that they've done a bad thing and getting a hashtag trending, which bots are very good at and smart people do not pay attention to. People didn't go out and destroy their copies of Guardians of the Galaxy or Frodo? What was that? People didn't go out and start destroying copies of Moana because there was a director that says a bad thing, and especially people that weren't of the color and orientation that James Gunn made jokes about. You know, because there were trolls and there were probably white people that were straight and cis. There's also the hissy fit of conservatives destroying licensed paraphernalia or certain brands whenever the company doesn't directly support our crappy president who does terrible things. It's just a hissy fit. Nike hasn't gone back on its support of Colin Kaepernick. What was it? Yeti canteens, a bunch of people destroyed the products that they already owned and have owned for years. So if anything, trying to withhold your money or withhold your consumption from a product is symbolic, mostly, in that you have to tell people about it. It's the direct action that tells people what you believe, such as my belief not to consume any media by a person who supports Roman Polanski, who raped a girl. There are several people in Hollywood that think that we should, you know, if you've watched season 5 of BoJack or paid at all attention to the news of terrible people doing terrible things and then being forgiven about it, there were a lot of people that think that Roman Polanski should be forgiven and brought back to the United States. Roman Polanski, who has multiple victims and has served time in France for these very crimes in France, which are super loose with the sexual stuff. Speaking of sexual assault, let's get to what inspired this video, which was the Pedantic Romantics video on anime has a sexual harassment problem. She put out a video about how there's a lot of sexual harassment in anime. And she also touched on how there's a bunch of people in this fandom that will attack her and will attack people that bring up these criticisms of anime because it's another culture and it's not in America. But those are dumb for reasons that she explains, where it's an actual cultural problem there. They have feminism too in Japan. Feminism is a movement. There are multiple demonstrations that support ideas of feminism and multiple arguments. And we use the lens of feminism in order to understand our culture over the last 100 of years and over all of humanity, to see where we've gone wrong in treating women a certain way. And this is in order to correct it so that women can be truly equal going forward. And also, intersectional feminism exists because feminism has failed black women in the past, and men, and veterans. And going through with that kind of lens is something that we do in order to fix the future. In a way, apologize for the shortcomings of the past and make sure that they don't happen again. So how does our feminism, how does our culture affect Japan's culture and the anime that comes back to us? I've thought about this a lot because there's a lot of backlash to the quality of SAO. Digibro put several videos talking about how SAO sucks, and so has a lot of other people. But this feedback hasn't made it back to anime, or seemingly hasn't. The new SAO show is full of 4 episodes worth of exposition, so certainly critique and specific ways to make a story better hasn't either caught on with the Japanese side of anime critique, or just hasn't made it over at all, because Riki Kawahara still writes the same way he always did. What that did change is the community's overall approach to SAO. They saw the problems with it. They are aware of the character failures in the series. We see the MAL score going down from one date to another in light of those criticisms. Digibro did not change the source, but he did change the audience and the way the audience perceives these kind of problems. But that did not alter consumption. Nor can it. We are in a global culture. We've been globalized. So American media does have an effect on Japanese shows and Japanese creators. A big example in several ways would be Fooly Cooly. The original Fooly Cooly has a segment that they take on the South Park style of animations. Everyone has big eyebrows that look like they're made of paper mache. Very difficult to animate. And actually, those jokes in that segment didn't go over very well in Japan, which people can tell from message boards. What it did do is show that those Japanese developers, those Japanese writers and creators, were watching a lot of South Park at the time, and shows that they do watch our media. And thus, they do consume the same ideas that we consume. It's not only the references in anime that shows that our culture has a big effect on their culture, such as cowboys or idyllic stories where a lot of Western movies were taken and adapted into samurai movies, and samurai movies adapted into Westerns. Amazing. But also, Cartoon Network paid for more anime to be made. They paid for more Big O, which was actually another show that took a lot of inspiration from the Batman animated series. And they paid to bring that over to the United States, and they paid people in Japan to make more. And the same deal goes for Fooly Cooly as well. But to further bring this illustration, the second season of Fooly Cooly was panned. A lot of people hated it. Even though it was more Fooly Cooly and there was a lot of fan service in it, a lot of people hated it for that reason. And they're still going on to make a third season of Fooly Cooly, despite how not very well received season 2 was. This is going to be a bit of an old story, but in the 90s or 2000s, there was the dawning of Code Red, and Code Red came out with 2 other types of Mountain Dew, and it wasn't which one of them sold the best, because it's really hard for companies to tell who it sells it when they sell it to distributors and distributors it, and then distributors sell it to us, and those distributors have contracts for a certain amount of pop, no matter the flavor, which is why there's a lot of sales to get rid of older stock. The way PepsiCo could tell which new flavor of Mountain Dew should stick around is they had a website and had people vote for it. People had to tell Pepsi which of their pops tasted the best, and not through their dollars of them just buying this new pop. Otaku, weebs, fans of anime have this idea that the things they buy help the company. We can see this in everywhere from abridged series to older ones saying that we need to buy the box set. People say that DVD sales are the only way that we can help these people in Japan make products, as opposed to Studio Trigger's new Patreon, which is directly giving your money to them. A lot of people in the community said they're a high price because we're just mostly paying to see more anime, to support more anime being made. The thing was, it was never really that much. There was a huge markup in the stores just because it's overseas, and tariffs and exchange. Those kind of things made it so that the products were more expensive, and less money actually went to the people making anime. And actually, if you know how businesses work, there's a production company that gets paid for all the sales, and there is a very, very small chunk that goes back to anime producers. And also, those companies pay executives and not necessarily the people that actually make the anime that well, because, capitalism is a nightmare. But what buying these products has done to us is made them fit it with our identities. our identity as consumers, as otaku, as people that like to watch anime and play video games from Japan. It makes us identify with them, identify with these companies, and care about what happens on this tiny island that tried to invade the world once. Mobs of fans on the internet now are not very good at changing companies or making the quality of anime better, but they are good at harassing people, individual people. On the positive side, there's Barack Obama, who a lot of people directly asked to stop being a crappy person because he was directing hate mobs at people for little to no reason in order to build up his own brand. Digi has a whole video on it. And because of this, some smaller organizations like Crunchyroll didn't have him as a guest at their, what is it, CrunchyCon? Whatever Crunchyroll convention they do. They didn't have the toxic person as a guest anymore because of the fan outrage and people going directly to the company. In contrast, the debacle, which was the embarrassing people going after High Guardian Spice for, I don't know, having women in it and being made by women and using the word diversity in their trailer, Crunchyroll hasn't canceled High Guardian Spice. Y'all shit the bed. Crunchyroll is owned by another company that got investors to invest in their own original product so that they can have original programming on their site. And that original programming is High Guardian Spice, which does not detract from paying anime producers in Japan for anime, and is just another thing that you get to watch. It's just more art. And possibly because the anime community is so ill-informed about these kind of processes, about businesses, about how art is made, no one's canceled High Guardian Spice, despite your whining. Despite a company not owning a production company in Japan and instead making a production company in America have money. Like, talk about a stupid thing to, be upset about. More jobs in America happening. What a bunch of assholes. Fuck. You don't have to watch that show, but if you don't watch that show, it's not going to matter. Because consumption isn't activism. Streaming sites can get eyeballs in front of their product no matter how it goes out. They could put the first episode out for free. They could upload it to YouTube and then pay people to watch that video. There are ways for organizations to make money by spending money without needing you, which what makes boycotts and consumption activism very difficult, if to the point of impossible, I'm saying it's impossible, don't. So what should anime activism look like? Well, it should look a lot like Pedro's video. She made a video that's made to change minds and to push a little bit. It's not going to convince everyone that anime shouldn't be rapey. Also, it doesn't argue that these things being displayed in media are the worst thing in the world. What it does do is push on a little people and let them know that that criticism is acceptable. We're allowed to say when some harassment is rewarded in a show and that we don't like that. There's already a movement that is doing that in media, and it is called feminism. And it is part of an overall powerful, smart movement that has a lot of people behind it and a lot of research into it. And Pedro's video is just something to change people's minds and to open it up because anime does have a sexual harassment problem. As well as our media. American media has a sexual harassment problem. Of course, we're getting better, and there's more and more programs that see this and even have stopped doing the wink wink. Oh, it isn't just Japanese culture that needs to change. It is our culture. And these defensives, how we feel so defensive for this thing that owes us nothing, that is actually damaging us and damaging women, this thing does need to be dealt with. Because this thing, this problem, the sexual harassment defensiveness, the sexual harassment being displayed in media, won't go away if we ignore it. We have to call it out when we see it. Then some of us do have to complain on Twitter. We do have to write letters to the people that promote it. We do have to outline it in our reviews, in our thought pieces, in our anime analysis. Because when we're able to highlight something that should not be normal, we can make it not normal. Digibro changed the mind collectively of a huge community to be a little more aware of these critical failures of anime. And we can do that for sexual harassment too. And we should do it. Because, sexual harassment is wrong, even when it comes out of Japan. Oh yeah, I know what the ladies like. The ladies like to be respected. Come, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment about ways that activism has failed or succeeded that you've been a part of or that you think of. Also, visit my Patreon where I'm real good at respecting women. Help me make my life sustainable and make these videos come out. I've managed to make one come out every week all year, and then let me know what kind of things you like. Want more anime? Want more meta now? More books? Want more reading? Want more manga? I got it all, baby. I'll respect the hell out of you. Also share this video because, I need more shares. Thanks for watching. I love you.